Well, kids, we're planning our family vacation to beautiful Carcassonne. Isn't it lovely? There's towers and walls and cities. It's really nice. But Dad, I don't want to go to Carcassonne. Why not? I hear it's scary there. I hear there's tigers and lions and fires and it's creepy. No, Billy, that's not at all what Carcassonne is like. Can't you see? It's beautiful. Hey, why don't you get Uncle George in here and we'll head out? I've been counting on this trip for a long time. I don't want to go to Carcassonne. I want to go to Disney. Shh! We don't have the rights to use that name. Oh, I'm here and I've got my hat. That hat looks silly. Shut up. All right, everyone in the car, let's go. Well, here we are, kids. Carcassonne. This doesn't look like Carcassonne, dear. Well, you're right, but I guess I shouldn't have ordered those tickets online. At least it will be an adventure. Oh, and Sally? Yes? Take off that hat. It looks ridiculous. Aw, Dad. Hi there. Welcome to Board Games with Scott. This is a regular video series where I take a game, explain it, lightly review it, and my hope is to help you determine if it's a game you might want to purchase. This week I'm going to be talking about Carcassonne: The Discovery. Now, this game is one of many in the Carcassonne series. It's a tile-laying game where you're going to draw tiles and play tiles. It's designed for new players to the Carcassonne series, but actually I enjoy the game quite a bit. It's got some clever things that are different from other games in this series. It's designed by Leo Colovini. It plays 2 to 5 players. It only takes half an hour to 45 minutes. And actually, it would be a good travel game because you can just pack up the tiles and the meeples and... What? Meeples? Is that a word? In the Carcassonne series, meeples, or miniature people, are the playing pieces that are used. They're these little pieces that look like little people. So, why don't we open up this box and see what's inside? So what are you going to get in the box? Well, you're going to get a whole bunch of little tiles like this. These tiles have different land features. They have water and mountains and greenland and cities on them. One thing to note that some of the tiles have little bitty cities on them, and those don't really count as cities. They're just drawings to make you happy as you play the game. You get meeples! Hooray! Little pieces shaped like people that you're going to use. These guys have little hats or dollops on their head, or little handy handle to carry them around by. One of the tiles is going to have a different back on it, and that's the starting tile, so you'll always want to keep that one separate from the others. You get a little scoring track to help you keep track of how many points people have. And each player is going to get their own personal board that is a reminder of how things score. You don't need to have these to play the game, and after you've played it once or twice, you won't need them at all. But they're very handy when you're explaining the rules to new people. Speaking of the rules, you'll get a nice 2-page rule sheet that's fairly easy. And there's lots of colorful examples to help you out. So that's it for the components. But how does it all work together? Well, let's take a look at that in flow of play. Here's the way the game works. Now you're going to start play by putting down this starter tile in the middle of the board. In addition, everyone will put one meeple on the big score sheet. Now, on your turn, you're going to draw a tile from the box, and then you play that tile. Now, the rules on playing tiles are that they have to touch something already on the board, and whatever they touch, it has to match up. So for example, this tile has 3 sides with water and 1 side with green. So I could play it here, would be legal. I could play it over here, that would be legal on any of those 3 sides. There's no way I could play it here or on this side. So wherever it touches, then it must match up. And that goes with every tile that you play. So every time you play a tile, it must match up with what's already there. Now you don't need to worry about the cities. That's not going to matter. So this tile, for example, I can't play it in this space because it requires a mountain and a grass, and I don't have those 2 things. So I'll have to play it somewhere, maybe over here. And so that's the first thing you're going to do on your turn, is you're going to draw a tile, and you're going to add it to the ever-growing world. So as the game board fills up, you're going to have explored this world. But that's not how you score points. The way you score points is after you draw a tile and you play it, you may choose to put one of your meeples on that tile, and only that tile. So if I played that, I could choose to put this meeple on this tile. I can't put it on any other tile. Once a tile has been played, and that person has decided whether or not to put a meeple on, no meeples can go on that tile. They can only go on the tile you just played. Now, where you put that meeple is going to determine what kind of role that meeple takes in life. It can either be an explorer if you put him on the grassland, a brigand if you put him in the mountains, or a navigator if you put him out to sea. And the reason why it matters is because the meeple will score points based upon the feature that they're on. So for example, if you make someone an explorer, you put them in the grassland. What they're going to do is they're going to look at all the grasslands that end up in contact with the grassland they're on. So in this case, this is a grassland made up of 3 tiles, and it is known as a complete grassland because it's finished off. If this tile were here instead, then this grassland would be an incomplete grassland. And that's going to matter when you score points. So part of what you're going to do in the game is you're going to make an attempt to complete the features that you're going to score points for. Now the same thing works for the brigands in the mountains. So if I put the brigand on this space here in the mountains, he would be part of this big mountain range, and it would be an incomplete mountain range. So even if I added in this tile, for example, it would still be an incomplete mountain range. And in order for that to be completed, I would have to end up sealing off both ends of it. Now other players may or may not want to have that happen. And if they don't want to have it happen, then they will continue to make my mountain bigger and bigger, so it's going to be harder to make it complete. Finally, they can go in the sea and become navigators. The same rule works there. As you look at the sea that's forming up, and you look to see if that sea is complete. So by putting this tile here, it makes for a completed sea. So in all 3 cases, you will score more points if the feature is complete. Now in the turn, what you're going to do is you're going to draw a tile, you're going to play a tile, then you can either put one down or pick one up that you put down on a previous turn. You cannot put one down and pick it up in the same turn and score points. Also, just because a feature is complete does not mean it's going to score points for your meeple. You actually have to take the time in the game to pick up your meeple and score the points for that. One of the tricky things in the game is you have 4 meeples, and so you've got to balance putting them down, picking them up, keeping them on there, hoping they'll score more points. One important note about placement. When you introduce a meeple, it cannot be introduced where there is already a meeple. So, for example, if I were to play this tile here, I would not be allowed to play my meeple there on that green land because there's already a meeple on that land. I could put the meeple on the mountain, that would be fine because there's no one over here on the mountain, but I'm not allowed to place a meeple where there's already a meeple. The same is true for your own color. I could not put a meeple there because there's already a meeple who is an explorer on this patch of green. There's some tricky ways around that situation, however. Let's say I played a tile here. Now I would be allowed to play my meeple here if I wanted to, because there's no other meeple on this patch of green, even if that means later on in the game that they all get hooked in together. That's fine, that's legal. So the rule is that when you play a meeple, there cannot already be a meeple on that land feature, mountain feature, or sea feature. If there are 2 meeples in the same land territory, they don't affect each other. Each person can score the full amount of points on their turn. When you remove the meeple, you score the amount of points for that terrain. So when blue pulls this person off, it's 10 points, and when yellow pulls this person off, that's 10 points. They don't get in the way of each other at all. Now let's talk a little bit about scoring. Now remember, explorers score the green, and if it is a completed green, when you score it, you get 2 points for every tile that made up that land. So if this meeple were to score right now, it would get 2, 4, 6, 8 points for yellow. If this was not there and I chose to score, I'd only get half points. So I only get 1 point per tile. So 1, 2, 3 points for that tile. But I can choose to do that. I play a tile, then I can either pick up a meeple and score points, or put a meeple down on the tile I just played, but I can't do both. Alright, so now let me tell you how to score the brigands. The way the brigands work is the brigands are going to score for cities that are near that mountain range. If the mountain range is complete when you score it, then the brigand will score 2 points for every city that is adjacent to those mountains, either directly adjacent or in the grasslands adjacent to the mountains. If it is an incomplete mountain range, let's say it was like this, then the brigand would only score 1 point for every city. So if it were like this, this brigand would score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. If it was completed, like so, and you took this guy off, the brigand would score 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 points. Or you could leave the brigand on for future turns, hoping that more cities appeared. So now let's talk about how to score the navigators. If the water is complete, as it is in this case, then when you pull it off, you score 1 point for every water tile, 1, 2, 3, and 1 point for every city. 1, 2, 3. So a total of 6 points. If, however, the sea is not complete when you take him off, then you don't score for the water tiles. You only score for the cities. So in this case, if I were to take him off, I would just score 1, 2. 2 points for him. Or I leave him on and hope to get this tile, and then I score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for him. At the end of the game, if you did not pull someone off during your turn, they're going to score points as though that feature were incomplete. So if this were the end of the game, I would just get 1, 2, 3 points for this navigator. So it's really important to watch when the end of the game is coming so you can make sure and pull your people off and score them before you get there. I need to briefly talk about one exception in scoring. If the feature that you're scoring is only made up of 2 tiles, such as this navigator here with 2 tiles in the sea, or this brigand here with 2 tiles in the mountain, or this explorer up here with 2 tiles in the grassland, then they're going to score fewer points. And in fact, they're going to score points as though that feature were incomplete. So in this case, with the grassland, it's 1 point per tile, so that'd be 2 points for yellow. With the brigand, it's 1 point per city, so that'd be just 2 points for this brigand. And in the water, it's 1 point per city. So it actually doesn't score any points at all because this city is touching that port as compared to being on this port. Remember, in this game, after you place your tile, then you can either put down a meeple or score a meeple. So if I put him down on this space that I just placed, I could not immediately take him off and score points. I'll have to wait for a future turn and then take him off. There are a couple variants I want to talk about. In one variant, everyone starts with 1 tile, and then as soon as you play your tile, you draw another one. So when it's not your turn, you can think about what you want to do. So if you had this tile and it wasn't your turn, you may want to think, well, I could put it here, or I could put it down there, or I could put it over here. It gives you something to do when it's not your go. Another variant is that everyone has a hand of 2 tiles, and then on your turn, you play one of your 2 tiles, and then you draw another one. So you'll always have 2 tiles to choose from. And so this can be a nice way of giving you a lot more control about what's going on, as well as some future knowledge about what tiles you'll have. It does make the game more complex, however. The game will start out with 1 tile in the middle. And by the end, you'll have a very pretty landscape that you have created. What do I think about this game? I think it's very clever. I like the idea that you're not stuck waiting around for something to complete, but you actually pull your person off if you're ready to give up and just get some points for it. There's a neat risk-taking element in this game that you don't have in the other Carcassonne game. And it's a little simpler to explain. It also goes by fairly quickly, and I appreciate both of those things in a game. So what's my grade for this game? I give this game a solid A. I've played a lot of the Carcassonne games, and I really like the new level of decision making they've put in this one, while still simplifying some of the basic ideas. And so I've enjoyed this game. I think it's a good one. It's one that I will be pulling out when I want a Carcassonne experience, because the game ends fairly quickly, and it's got that nice decision making issue of leaving the people out or bringing them back home. While this game has been produced by Rio Grande Games, its English version is distributed exclusively through Funnigan Games. If you like this game, there are many more games in the Carcassonne series. I think Carcassonne Hunters and Gatherers is a good one to start off with. The base Carcassonne box, which is the dark blue, has many, many expansions to it and a lot of ways to explore this Carcassonne game. So with that, I'll thank you much for coming by, and hopefully we'll see you another week. So you take your meeple and... Meeples? What's the plural of meeple? Meeple? Is merson a word? Oh. 17 Carcassonne games.